All right, gang. What VDH is getting at here is actually something we talk a lot about on this channel, and it's a process known as delegitimization. It's a fancy schmancy word describing the process by which public institutions basically erode, they collapse in terms of widespread trust and confidence. And you just look at what happened with the Berlin Wall and Eastern Europe, that and Soviet Union itself, that corrosion can lead to a sudden and colossal fall. And what Hans is basically arguing here is we're starting to see with this Biden corruption a comparable erosion in trust and confidence in our own government, which risks the entire system itself. So, for example, according to a new Gallup poll, among all G7 nations, the United States government has the least amount of confidence among its citizens. Just 31% of surveyed adults trust and support the United States government, 3 in 10. Now, I've often said this on this channel.
While we know constitutional carry is sweeping the nation, millions of Americans and even you courageous patriots out there, you Turley talkers, you're still stuck in blue or weak red states restricting your constitutional right to bear arms. Well, don't worry, gang. Countrywide concealed is probably the quickest way to get carrying legally in the majority of the United States. That's right. You won't just be able to carry in your state, but in 84% of the whole of the US of A. It's as quick as watching a video and taking a quiz, and thanks to Countrywide Concealed, your family is that much safer from a myriad of threats no matter where you go. Getting a concealed carry license has literally never been easier, so just click on that link below and join the millions of patriots who've taken back their rights and started carrying legally with Countrywide Concealed today.
Now, I've often said this on this channel, but every poll out there shows that we are, right now as we speak, most likely the single most divided nation in the world. And I am not talking about divisions between the people. I'm not. I mean, the legacy media tries to make it appear that way. That's certainly the way the legacy media tries to always make it appear. Even just the red state, blue state map is misleading, because when you look at blue states like Oregon, for example, right, the super majority of the counties, generally speaking, not always, but generally speaking, the super majority of their counties are red. They're solid red. Oregon, 90% of the landmass of Oregon is more akin to deep red Idaho than it is super blue Portland, right? So even the red state, blue state map isn't very conducive to reality here. We have to understand that the legacy media is the one that tries to always make it appear that we, the people, are divided. And that's why we need the permanent political class to come in, or else racism would flood our people, sexism, homophobia, right? All their resentment politics go to catchphrases: insurrection, conspiracy theory, QAnon. But study after study after study demonstrates that we, the people, are actually more united than we've ever been. We're less racist than we've ever been. Racism is at an all-time low. 50 years ago, 90% of the public was against interracial marriage. Today, 90% of the public is all for it. We're less racist than we've ever been. We're more anti-war than we've ever been, even at the height of the Vietnam era. And we're collectively more suspicious and more distrusting of our government than we've ever been. The real division is between the people and the permanent political class. We are the single most divided nation in terms of the people and their permanent political class of all G7 nations. The job of the legacy media today is there to protect the neo-feudalized corporate and political aristocracy that rules rather than represents. They rule precisely because they operate according to their own values, interests, and concerns, and they ignore and they outright detest the values, interests, and concerns of the people. And what Hansen is basically arguing here is that mass awareness of look, we've already got a mass awareness of a two-tier justice system. Nobody likes it, but you hope you never have to involve yourself with the justice system, right? Again, there's still a certain level of removal. Hansen's noting that same resentment, but now recognizing a two-tiered tax system where the IRS overtly and explicitly grants privileges to our elite, all the while cracking down on the rest of us, that's enough to shatter the whole system. That's enough to shatter the system as a whole. Now, this was made even more apparent when the New York Times had to admit that Merrick Garland's Justice Department stepped in and refused to allow U.S. Attorney David Weiss to bring charges against Hunter for his numerous obvious felonies. According to the Times, in mid-2022, David Weiss reached out to the top federal prosecutor in Washington, Matthew Graves, to ask his office to pursue charges against Hunter, but was rebuffed. A similar request to prosecutors in the Central District of California, which includes LA, was also rejected. So Shapley testified. There was also a second IRS official who had been identified. He told Republicans the same story. This is all coming from the IRS, right? That episode was confirmed independently to the New York Times by a person with knowledge of the situation. What this all means is that Attorney General Merrick Garland was lying when he said that the Justice Department did not interfere with the Hunter Biden investigation involved tax fraud. And so here we have, and I would argue this is a perfect example of how corruption ultimately corrupts. When you have layers of corruption piled on top of each other, inevitably the whole system begins to rot out. The influence peddling of the Biden crime family has not only tainted the vice presidency and the presidency, it's tainted the IRS. It's tainted the Justice Department. And of course, it's tainting the legacy media. Corruption inevitably corrupts. And the seedy operation from Biden to Garland to CNN, it all appears ready to just completely implode in terms of public trust and confidence and legitimacy. And so if the powers that be want to continue to remain in power, this is how Hansen basically sums up his argument. If the powers that be want to remain in power, Hansen argues they're going to have no choice but to sacrifice Biden and the whole of the Biden crime family, lest they go full Gorbachev, lest they go full Soviet, lest they double down in every corrupt lie on the planet, and the people in mass just revolt, including members of the military. They just revolt, and the whole system comes crashing down. The threat of mass delegitimation is enough, Hansen argues, for the powers that be to take down Biden. And so Hansen believes this scandal will ultimately bring down Biden. It will do much to bring, or at least severely hamper, and discredit, it already has, the three-letter agencies like the IRS and the FBI and the DOJ. And it will finally drive a stake through the heart of the credibility of the legacy media, whatever remaining credibility they may have. That, according to Hansen, is what we can ultimately expect coming out from all of this blatant Biden corruption. Nothing less than the fall of the whole system itself.